Welcome to part 2 of our antimicrobial series. In video number 1, we had a look at the drugs that act on the outer layer, that's the cell wall of the bacteria, without harming the human cells. This video is going to be about drugs that act on DNA replication of the bacteria. So, let's start this topic. Very simple, very important. We are talking about DNA replication first and then we'll talk about the medicines. Okay, so some basics have to be clear here. When we talk about DNA replication, the DNA is a double helical structure. Isn't that so? So if it's a double helical structure, if it's a double helix, it has to be opened before it can undergo a replication. And to open it, we require an enzyme. The enzyme is called as DNA helicase. It's the one which breaks the DNA helix, it opens it and separates the two strands of DNA, right? After this, some stabilizing proteins called as SSBP, single stranded DNA binding proteins. Okay, SSBP, that's what we call it. These keep the strands separate, and then enzymes called as DNA polymerase help in making new molecule of DNA. Okay, now this is an important concept that you have to understand. As you open the DNA helix, there are supercoils formed. Imagine you have a rope which is twisted around itself like a double helix, and you try to pull these two ends apart. Now, as you try to pull these two ends apart, don't you think the remaining part of the rope will become tighter and tighter and tighter? That is exactly what supercoils are. Now, in case of a rope, it might not really be significant. In case of a DNA, if the supercoils are too many, then the strands of DNA can actually break. Simple. We don't want the DNA to break. The bacteria does not want its DNA to break, and hence it has kept an enzyme. The name of that enzyme is DNA gyrase or gyrase, however you want to pronounce it. And this enzyme DNA gyrase has been given only one job, and that job is to break this double-stranded DNA, create negative supercoils. So when you are separating the DNA, what happens is positive supercoils. What I have drawn here are called as positive supercoils. It will create negative supercoils. So it kind of unwinds it. That is what I am trying to say here. So do the unwinding business and then reseal the DNA so that the DNA remains continuous, error-free. Okay. Now, the DNA gyrase, if I have to emphasize on that, is having two parts. The DNA gyrase has two subunits, A and B. So there are two DNA gyrase A subunits and two DNA gyrase B subunits. You can imagine the enzyme to be like this. So you can just imagine there are two A subunits and there are two B subunits to a DNA gyrase, and the A subunit is the one which cuts the DNA, B subunits introduces negative supercoil, and then A again reseals it. Okay. Now, at the end of replication, in case of a bacteria, its DNA is double stranded, plus it is helical, plus it is circular. So at the end, if you notice, what happens here is there is replication for two new DNA strands are formed, but here the DNA kind of interlocks. So it's something like this. One DNA goes complete circle like this, and the other DNA, the newly formed DNA, goes like this. I hope you're getting it. So it goes through this loop behind this red one. That is how the new strand would be. Now, if you want to separate these two strands of DNA, you require an enzyme that can cut these two strands, separate them, and reseal them. Getting it? This nicking and separation of the daughter DNA strands after the DNA replication is done by an enzyme called as topoisomerase 4. Okay? Simple enough, easy to understand. So there are two important enzymes that I want you to remember, DNA gyrase and topoisomerase 4. The drugs that we are describing are first generation fluoroquinolones, norfloxacin, lomefloxacin, second generation ciprofloxacin, ofloxacin, third generation levofloxacin, gatifloxacin, pafloxacin, and sparfloxacin, and fourth generation moxifloxacin, fluroxacin, garenoxacin, gemifloxacin, and trovafloxacin. These are fluoroquinolones. They have one fluorine substituted in their structure. They are fluorine substituted antimicrobial. So they are quinolones plus one or more fluorines. These medicines, all of them which you are seeing on your screen right now, are going to inhibit the DNA cutting and resealing part of DNA gyrase, which is the subunit A. So A subunit of DNA gyrase, fluoroquinolones attack that A subunit and interfere with its strand cutting and resealing function, and because of that DNA replication does not happen properly. The DNA keeps on breaking and the DNA replication stops, which means the bacteria will die. Simple. Similarly, many of these medicines are going to work on topoisomerase 4. The topoisomerase 4 is going to, the one that nicks and reseals the daughter DNA strands after replication. That enzyme is blocked because of fluoroquinolones. Okay. Now, there is a greater affinity of fluoroquinolones for topoisomerase 4, and it has been noticed that this topoisomerase 4 is more important for gram-positive bacteria. So fluoroquinolones slightly more on gram-positive bacteria by its action on topoisomerase 4, and by DNA action on DNA gyrase, it can primarily inhibit the gram-negative bacteria. So it is working both on gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Easy to understand, simple, I presume, nothing difficult, right? So keep this in mind when you're going through this chapter. The mechanism of action, as I said, inhibit DNA gyrase in gram-negative and topoisomerase 4 in gram-positive bacteria, and this is slightly more important, slightly more powerful action as compared to DNA gyrase. Well, can the bacteria develop resistance? Why not? The problem for the bacteria is there is no plasmid mediated resistance. See, if it is a plasmid mediated resistance, then the plasmids can be shared. So a bacteria can give that information to thousands of different bacteria, and eventually every bacteria who has the plasmid will become resistant. The resistance to fluoroquinolones is a chromosomal issue. Imagine a bacteria who has chromosomal mutation in the gene that produces DNA gyrase, or chromosomal mutation in a gene for topoisomerase 4. Altered DNA gyrase and altered topoisomerase 4 will have reduced affinity for fluoroquinolone, right? Now, this being a chromosomal problem, it cannot be spread very easily. Second thing that we have noticed is some of these bacteria are smart. They have developed efflux pump. So they throw the fluoroquinolones out of their body. All these drugs have very good oral bioavailability except norfloxacin, but try to give it between meals or before meals. Okay, 2 hours after meal or half an hour before meal, because food might interfere with the absorption. For MCQ sake, you can remember the excretion of moxifloxacin and trovafloxacin is by hepatic metabolism. Sparflox and paflox is by renal and hepatic routes both, and all other are only by tubular secretion in the kidney. Now, out of all the drugs that we are going to study in this chapter, Sparflox, moxifloxacin, trovafloxacin have long half-lives, and hence they can be given once a day. Actually, sparfloxacin has the longest T-half of all the fluoroquinolones. These are MCQs, please remember that. You need to know in detail ciprofloxacin. If you don't know this medicine, you are royally screwed, and I don't want that to happen in your exam, so please do that properly. Most potent fluoroquinolone active against many bacteria, broad range of bacteria like aerobic gram-negative bacillus, Enterobacteriaceae, Neisseria. Its bactericidal activity is pretty high. Even it has a high potency, which means the minimum bactericidal concentration, MBC, is very close to its minimum inhibitory concentration. The concept is this, that if you give a medicine in a specific a concentration, say ciprofloxacin, at one particular level it will stop the bacteria from multiplying, and then at a little higher concentration the bacteria will die. That is the minimum inhibitory concentration. Simple. That and minimum the MBC, the minimum bactericidal concentration, and the minimum inhibitory concentration are kind of near each other, and hence this drug is amazing. This has a relatively long post-antibiotic effect on Enterobacteriaceae, Pseudomonas, and Staphylococcus. Now, what exactly is this post-antibiotic effect? What I mean to say is, if you give a particular antibiotic to a bacteria, like a small exposure, like a brief exposure, okay, and you remove that bacteria from the antibiotic medium into a non-antibiotic medium, an antibiotic-free medium, it should start multiplying effect. But it also depends on the antibiotic we are using. Okay, immediately it can't multiply. It takes some time for the bacteria to start multiplying. There's a lag period. So what I'm trying to tell you is, imagine there are two petri dish in your hand. One on the right hand is petri dish A. It has antibiotics in it. Petri dish B does not have antibiotic in it. Imagine you putting bacteria in petri dish A with antibiotic. Before you put it in A, it was happily multiplying. You put it in A, it stops multiplying. Take that bacteria out, now put it in bacteria in petri dish B. After a lag period, it starts growing again. This lag period is the time taken for growth to resume again. This is known as post-antibiotic effect. Okay. This is the time required for reattainment of the logarithmic growth. Okay. Now, this lag period is long in fluoroquinolones, MCQ, aminoglycosides, and rifampicins. Simple. So please remember what is post-antibiotic effect, especially fluoroquinolones, ciprofloxacin has a post-antibiotic effect on Enterobacteriaceae, Pseudomonas, and Staphylococcus. Simple. So it also has a low frequency of mutational resistance. So even that chromosomal resistance does not happen. And just in case there is a plasmid type mutant resistant, they usually die, they don't get selected. So it has been noted that bacteria who have these plasmids with ciprofloxacin resistance, they don't even survive naturally, which is the reason why this is good antibiotic for most of the infections. It's protective to intestinal streptococcus and anaerobes. Remember in Amox and Ampi, we spoke about how there is loose motion as a side effect because it is going to kill the resident blood flora. Here, nothing of that sort happens. The only issue is less active in acidic pH, and most of the inflammatory sites have acidic pH. The side effects are very easy to remember. You remember it with GCST as the mnemonic. Okay, GCST or CGST, whatever you want to say. GIT side effects include anorexia, nausea, vomiting, and bad taste. CNS side effects include dizziness, headaches, restlessness, anxiety, insomnia, impairment of concentration, and loss of dexterity. Dexterity means the ability to use your hands and feet. Okay, so I'll give you an example to make it simple. Virat Kohli is very dexterous with his cricket bat. He can play nice cricketing shots, right? If he loses his dexterity, he will appear clumsy with a cricket bat. For you, it might be, oh, you have a beautiful handwriting. When somebody takes ciprofloxacin, his handwriting will get messed up. Getting the idea. Dexterity is inability to function normally with your limbs. Skin will show hypersensitivity reaction, and T is for tendinitis and cartilage damage. We don't want to risk that in children, and hence ciprofloxacin should be avoided in children. Be very careful about this. So where will you use them? A, B, C, D, E. That's how you will remember it. Ciprofloxacin is for abdominal infections including typhoid and anthrax. B is for all bone and bronchopulmonary infection including pneumonias and TB. C is for chancroids and other STDs including gonorrhea and urinary tract infection and even intracranial infection, that's meningitis. D is for diarrhea, that's gastroenteritis or orodental infections, and E stands for eye infections like conjunctivitis. Now I am giving you a mnemonic so that you can remember it for a longer period of time. Okay, don't write just this much because this much might not really be sufficient in your exams. This is just enough to get you good marks. If you want amazingly great marks, have a look at your textbook. You will realize that they have given nice paragraph like it's a broad range of infection, wide spectrum of activity, oral efficacy is good, good tolerability, so it's good for empirical therapy. See, all these nice words you have to pick up from your textbook so that your answer looks beautiful. Even in severe infection, you can write something like start with IV infusion and switch over to oral route depending on the condition of the patient. There are some things that of course the mnemonics cannot include. For example, I've just written here urinary tract infection. You can elaborate that a little bit. Like you can give it to patients who have indwelling catheters, who have prostatitis. They have better success rates than other antimicrobials. Chronic Pseudomonas infection responds less completely. But out of all the fluoroquinolones, ciprofloxacin is the best against Pseudomonas. Then gonorrhea. Ciprofloxacin was 100% curative in non-penicillinase producing Neisseria gonorrhoeae. So write something like that, like give a little description. This is only to help you remember all the important uses. But the description part has to be done from the textbook, and that's the reason why I want you to please have a look. You might not remember the dose. If you don't remember the dose, it's fine. Don't write something that you don't remember. But you get my point. Go through the textbook. Very important. So this completes DNA replication and topoisomerases and drugs acting on topoisomerase and DNA gyrase. Next video is going to be about protein synthesis, okay, and drugs acting on them. This is what I want you to do. Please go through this chapter. Ciprofloxacin would be the priority, but apart from that, in my next video, I will also be giving you a small question bank of what all things you have to do. So as of now, just finish ciprofloxacin, go back to your textbooks, finish that much and come back and start with the new chapter. Till the next time we meet, this is Dr. Avinash signing off. Take care, keep studying and keep rocking. Bye bye.